Hi everybody, my name is Shane Richards. Today I'm going to tell you guys about the artificial intelligence that I have been developing. So the table and contents will include the objective and the purpose of the AI that I developed, my background and inspiration, the methods that I use in order to develop it, some of the challenges that I face while trying to make it, as well as some of the expectations that were met, some of the lessons that I've learned, and my sources. Uh, I did not provide a timestamp. If I don't do so in post editing, it's gonna be only about a 15-minute video, so it won't be that difficult to just skim through the timeline. It'll be easy to find. So first we have our introduction, objective and purpose. So the project description. So what I did was I decided to develop an AI that would be capable of playing Uno. Now, this isn't to say necessarily a full game of Uno, because that pretty much already exists in an actual Uno video game. Instead, what I developed was an AI that could talk, because AI in Uno games, they don't talk, they just play cards. They also, my uh, AI will also have mainly the ability of knowing the rules and repeating them back to me, while also being able to call out if I do something wrong. And most of it will be done within the first draw the card. The objective of this project for my artificial intelligence class was to create a AI that has implemented rational agents that carry out a required function. So, inspiration. What inspired me? Well, uh, I've said partially what it is. That our main focus was just to create a AI agent that was something outside of what we learn in class, while having required functions be carried out. And I thought about, what's a area I can use this on? And one of the examples that was provided was being able to teach it to play a game. Now, the one that was taught was, or the one that was taught, my apologies, the one that was given an example for was teaching it how to play GTA, which is Grand Theft Auto. But I thought, well, that's that's fine, but that's not really a game that really works for AI. And then I thought, well, there's a game that I own that I have had recent trouble playing that features AI in their name. The problem with them is that they don't talk. They don't have any dialogue. They just are pictures with imaginary people putting down cards. They have no personality. So I figured I'll just make my own Uno game and make it to where it is a 1v1 situation, which is something that that game does not have. They don't have 1v1s. They only have 4v4s or 2v2s, because it's a 4-player required game for the digital version. Uh, so some of my methods. So I used the Java programming language because it's the one that I remember I understood the most when I first started programming. Majority of my code is made up of if-else statements, and uh, most of which don't really have an else. It's more so just if and else if. Um, there was also the SCR, or string or scanner source, which is basically the scanner will pick up a new variable, which will come in the form of a print line question, and it will string in that new variable with the user's next input. And this will be determined by what the user says. It is limited, and there were fails, but we'll get into that on the next slide. I only really used two sources here. One of them was really the only one I used, which was Grepper and YouTube. Discussion. So challenges. So there were a lot of challenges, and I'll start with the one I was getting to last slide. So the issue with the source is that you can only do one at a time. So if, let's say, if card color, for an example, is dot equals parentheses quotation marks red, you can't say red or blue or green or yellow. You can only do one at a time. So that was a little bit tedious. There were also some issues with using CodeGripper, which was, I tried to implement a method based on floating, which would allow the AI to randomly pick a color if a wild or +4 card was used, but the issue is that it just didn't work. It didn't even say the print line. It just terminated, so I had to get rid of it and replace it with a lot of typing. Another issue I had was that I had to delete about half the color's input, which is to say that if the top deck, because with Uno, how it works is each person draws 7 cards, and then the top of the deck is placed down and it becomes a starting base. The issue is that there are 4 colors: red, blue, yellow, and green. Sorry if you heard that. Red, blue, yellow, and green. And there are 10 numbers, 0, and then 1 through 9. And then there are reverse cards, which are, it changes the direction of who goes next, but it doesn't really matter in a 1 versus 1. But what it would normally do is, if there are at least 3 people and they're playing clockwise, the reverse card would make it counterclockwise. There's a skip card, which skips the next person after you, and in a 1v1 that just means you just get to go again. You also have a +2 card, which makes the next person draw 2 more cards unless they also have one. I did not implement, by the way, any house rules, because that is a little bit too wide in variation for something that can only be programmed in a few months. A few other challenges included, that's right. So what I was getting at was, for the red number cards and the blue number cards, I was able to keep, but I had to delete the ones for green and yellow because the main string couldn't hold it all. I apparently exceeded the limit to which the main string would be able to hold, which I didn't even know was possible until today. So yeah, but it would basically carry out the same function that the red and blue will. There are also a few issues with the fact that I attempted to use a if then statement, which didn't work. I don't entirely remember the reason why it didn't. I believe it had something to do with the fact that I fuse colors with numbers and it just wasn't working in that area. The only other challenge I really had was that it was just a lot to type, because, well, okay, a lot of it was copying and pasting, thank goodness, but I still had to type a good chunk of it, and that was what my main challenges were. My expectations that I had hoped to learn was basically just to be able to develop an AI in general, because I think the idea of me being able to do that just makes me more happy that I'm able to do something like that. And also, to get into the specifics, something I was really hoping to do was just basically be able to teach an AI how to recognize color and number, and then how to correspond to those colors and numbers with something that matches. And that was something I was able to do. These are my sources. So, Ayaz Khan on YouTube was a big help. He's the one who basically got my code started, and then I just kind of looped it from there. I ended up not using Code Creeper's code, which was the floating method that I mentioned earlier. But even so, I figured might as well just give him the credit anyways, because I was going to use it at first, but it just ended up not working out for me. So yeah, thank you for coming. If you have any questions, let me know, and I will begin the demonstration soon after this. Thank you.